Hey guys, I'm Tim.
And I'm Dan.
And this is the Board Game Rundown, and today we're going to talk about Kinfire Delve, Scorn's Stockade. This is a 1 to 2 player game in this box. If you have any of the other Kinfire Delve games, you can combine characters from those games, mix and match, and you can play up to 4 players. All it really does is change your hand size, and then it might affect a few cards.
Certain cards list names of characters.
Might reference a character or two that are not in this box. And basically what's happening is in this world, there's a big darkness that is emanating from this well, and then we are seekers, and we have been appointed to dive down into this well, climb to the bottom of it, find the Scorn, the guy at the bottom of the well, and defeat him. And return, goodness to the world and all that stuff.
Good.
We failed. We found him.
That's true. They said go find that guy, and we were like, here he is, and then he killed us.
Let me change this to a win.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's going to happen is the well is basically reflected by the well deck here, and you're going to have cards in your hand that you're going to play, and they have actions, and these actions are color coordinated. They do have symbols so that you can match the symbols if there are color issues for you. But you're going to play an action. You're going to add the power of that action to the appropriate challenge that you're trying to do. And then other players can boost up to twice, which is super helpful. The cards are multi-use, so the boost version of that ability is down here on the bottom, and those are also color specific. Your action card you play might also give you an additional ability. Everybody's got different stuff, completely unique decks per character. If we succeed and totally defeat the meet all the requirements for the challenge, yay, 7, we win. And then we get to now delve deeper into the well. So we're going to discard basically 3 cards off the top of that well deck. Hooray. And that means we're that much closer. And then this guy would go away, next card would come out, and then Dan would start his turn. If we fail a challenge, there's a penalty. Usually it's like lose life. Sometimes it is take cards. You have to retreat back up the well. So you take cards from the discard pile and add them back to the top of the deck. So that kind of sucks because that's hard. It's hard to get through that deck. When you can either, if you're running low on cards, you don't like your hand, or you're out of cards, you can take an exhaustion card, discard your cards in your hand if you have any left, and then draw back up to your hand size. But those exhaustion cards are going to give you like sort of ongoing effects. And I think all of them are like if 3 of a type or 3 of a type, probably the best way to say it, right?
Yeah,
they're named cards.
3 specific cards.
And if those 3 come out, you instantly lose the game. There are ways to mitigate that where you can discard exhaustion cards and put them, and they get shuffled back into the exhaustion deck. We were playing on like regular difficulty, so Dan and I had a shared health of 10. Shared. But, you can heal. There's ways to heal. Everybody has an asymmetric player power, which you may have to do something to trigger it, or it may be passive. And then you also have this lantern card. Super powerful card, but you only can charge your lantern when you defeat a challenge that has the lantern as a reward. Then you flip that over. That card basically becomes a playable card. Most of them are sort of colorless or white, so they can apply to any challenge. But once you use it, it gets flipped back over until you get that next recharge. So they're very powerful, but they're very limited. I think we used Dan's lantern twice. And I never charged mine because when I could, we ended up getting rid of some of the exhaustion cards to do it, which is totally fine. And that's sort of the interesting thing about navigating this difficult co-op. There's obviously a few more rules and minutia, but that gives you a brief overview on how to play. Once you get down through the bottom of the well, you're going to replace these cards. That means you can't draw any more of those cards. And then you're going to flip over Scorn that's at the bottom of the well. And there's 3 different versions of him. You shuffle and play one secretly. And now we can't do damage to him until we get rid of these. So when you flip this over, we defeat this challenge. He's now vulnerable to a certain color, right? So now he's vulnerable to green actions. If we beat this one, now he's vulnerable to blue. This one, nothing, right? And then this one's red. And then, so we have to beat these before we can start throwing our cards at him to then take him down. Again, there are negative effects that can happen. Most of the time it's because of these dice, because when you go to attack any challenge, you're going to roll all these dice after you've determined who's boosting and not, and then you're going to get any of the extra symbols that you roll. So if we were trying to go after a blue challenge that has those squares, these would add to it. And then this white one here is a wild, so that would also apply. We could add 3 extra. The bad thing is when you roll that symbol, depending on what you're doing, bad things are going to happen. Sometimes that can happen with the challenge cards. Most of the time that really hits you hardest down here at the bottom of the well when you're fighting Scorn himself. That's basically the basics. You can lose by getting the appropriate exhaustion cards or losing all your health.
Or any card effect that specifically says it.
Yeah, there are some card effects that are like, oh, if this happens and this happens and this happens, lose the game.
Yeah.
But there's also some win the game.
Yeah.
Which we had one of those cards unlocked.
Yep, never saw the complimentary cards to it.
Yeah, we buried them. We buried them, I'm sure. But all the player decks are asymmetrical, play completely differently, and have different you can kind of see a theme through the player decks. So they feel thematic to each character. Dan, what'd you think of Kinfire Delve? This is your first time with one of these. This is my second one.
I was going to say, this is my first time playing it. Are they all the Kinfire games, these 2-player games? I thought I saw bigger ones.
There are bigger ones, but the Delve series is specific to this.
Okay, because I thought I had seen the bigger. So I was very impressed with this. Couple of my initial basic thoughts that you'll hear me say a million times is that, so this is a 2-player game. If you combine games, you can play up to 4 players. I would like to see how 3 or 4 players play, because while I don't think this played bad at 2 players at all, I would like to see the multiple boosting options from all the different players saying, oh, well, I can do this. Seeing all the different options, I think will really add to that. And then also, like we said, certain cards will say, like, if Asha does this, and if we're not playing with Asha, that card's effect is not null and void, but it's like half as effective, because only the top part of the card will then happen. So having to actually worry about every card that comes out, I think will add an interesting depth to the game. Make
it even harder.
Exactly, and I like that because going into that, yes, this feels like a. It's not a roguelike game because there's no like, okay, now we start over with like higher stats or something, right? There's no like continuing on, like you start back at 0 and you start again. So it's not exactly roguelike, but it does give me that same feeling of a roguelike where we're really going in, we really are the underdogs at the beginning, and we're trying to min-max our hands and everything in order to do as much damage as possible. And also everything is a judgment call. Okay, should I only do half damage to this card, which is going to give us a damage, but it means we're going to be able to kill it next turn, and this card's really bad? Or should I insta-kill this weaker card, which is barely going to get us anything, but at least we're going through the deck, which is at the end of the day our win con. I think there's constantly decisions going on, even in just a 2-player game, where it's like, okay, what do you think about this option? Because you are allowed to be completely open with your information, your hand, and say, oh, well, I could boost you too. I could do this. On my turn, I might do this. Which means there's just a lot of communication going on what you think is the best option and what you should be doing on each turn. That could lend into an alpha gamer sense, I guess. I don't think it's going to happen just because how all of your cards are different than all their cards. So they can't possibly know everything that's in your hand and what you're going to do with all your cards. One of the things I really wanted to mention was I had a brain fart, which happens a lot. You wanted to mention it so bad. I wanted to mention it so bad.
Well, one thing I might have not mentioned when we were talking about how this is played, while you think about that, is your progress is saved on the card unless otherwise stated. So you have these challenges, and as you're trying to complete them, there is sort of some tactics there, right? Like, well, I can do 3 on it now, but you have a good card that would be better to lead with than to use as a support.
Right.
So like, maybe I'll go do something else, or maybe I'll just add a little bit more, so then we're going to have a guaranteed success next time around. Like, we can take that 1 health, like that's not as bad, or I've got a card that can ignore it anyways. So super important.
The asymmetric and the powerfulness of the cards is all over the place. Like what Tim's trying to say. The amount of times where it's like, this card can just do 5 to this, or it can do 0 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff like that, which then go into the win cons, which is the thing I wanted to talk about.
Hey, we found it.
I really like alternate win conditions and stuff like that.
Oh, sure.
And I really like the fluidity of it in this game. You start out and it's you win by doing this and you lose by doing this. And then all of a sudden you draw a card and it's like, or you could win by doing this. And it's like, oh, interesting. Maybe we should work towards that. And then you start getting to a point where you're like, maybe it's not possible to do that. And then you draw another card and it's like, be careful, or you could win or lose because of this. And it's like, oh, interesting. So you're constantly having these win and lose cons just kind of appearing out of nowhere and giving you more options that you have to watch and be weary of. And I really, really like that. I know that there's a lot of people in our game group that really like having alternate win cons and stuff like that. And not just saying like, you win by doing X. And so the way that this game starts with just the 2, because that's easy to teach, it's gateway kind of thing, like hey, you can just learn this game really easily, and then just slowly and naturally can introduce more ways to win and lose through the normal card play of the game. I love that. I think that was really cool. So yeah, I think they nailed the feeling of a difficult co-op with roguelike kind of thing. I think they nailed the feeling here, and this was really fun.
Yeah, it scratches so many itches, right? It's very easy to play and teach. It's even kind of funny because sometimes I play games like this and I'm like, oh, you got to build the deck a certain way and this and that. And it's really not that at all. You separate the cards into their piles and then you discard a couple cards off the top of the well deck and it's built.
Yeah.
You can go through and they have like if it's your first time playing, set out these 4 cards, and you can do that if you want, but you don't have to. And, but yeah, like Dan was saying, it's always changing, right? Like, we could play again and see different cards because so many of the rewards for killing a critter or beating an obstacle, you know what I mean, is like 5 cards, you delve 5 cards down. We're like, sweet.
At one point,
we never looked at those cards.
Yeah, at one point, I went into the discard pile of this deck because I thought for a second we had accidentally put a challenge card into this discard pile instead of the other one. And so I went through like the top 10 cards to see, and none of the cards were cards that I had seen before. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know what these are.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of replayability there.
Yeah, there's not many. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of redundancies. And if that wasn't like enough, I love the art and the production value of these cards. You don't they don't have to look as cool and have like the gold inlay, but they do. I'm not complaining. They look freaking fantastic. I want to get those really nice, tight, clear sleeves.
Yes,
because I'm
worried about the scratches.
Yeah, because I've got ones that are like with the black background, but they would block the back of the card, and I want to see that beautiful artwork, right? But anyways, the artwork on the cards is great. The iconography is very straightforward. All the icons are also just explained on the back of the book. The rule book is pretty small. The only bad thing about the rule book is it's not a big square. It's not a big square. I wish it was a giant square.
I wish it was a giant square.
In the middle of it, here's step 1, play a skill card, right? Use your lantern. Then you go to the next page and it's achievements and an ad for the Kinfire Chronicles, which is another game. Then, step 2.
Yep.
That's the worst thing about the rulebook. Everything else is pretty straightforward. They give you some good pictures that explain some stuff. So the other one I've played is Vainglory's Grotto. I have not played Callus's Lab. But I enjoyed Vainglory's Grotto quite a bit. Same with Scorn's Stockade. They're the same game without being the same game. Different challenges, but you've got the idea. You know how to play one, you know how to play both. And also getting the other characters is also what's going to make it interesting, because you're going to be able to I can't wait to grab the other characters from Vainglory's Grotto and try them.
Play them against Scorn.
Yeah, and just mix and match them up a little bit and see all these combinations, because not only, like Dan was saying, there's going to be cards you don't see all the time in the deck, but now you've got these different character combinations. It's like other games like Sentinels of the Multiverse, right? Really rewarding, because you can build these really interesting sort of teams as you go in after a bad guy, and I really like that and appreciate that in a game. So.
Yeah, and again, with the more characters, I really like how the exhaustion cards, not all of them, I think, but most of them mention another character and like a specific card they can play and how it can affect it and how it can basically insta-lose you the game. So like a quick example is one of the cards in my deck says it's a very powerful card, it's like 5 attack, but when I play it, I have to discard the top X cards of this deck and or look at them and discard any traps.
Oh, right.
And that's just, okay, that's nice. That's a
Sounds
cool
great.
effect. The problem is one of these exhaustion cards come out that says that if when I play that card, there are no traps to discard, we instantly lose the game.
Right.
And instantly my best card in my deck, or one of my best cards in my deck, is unplayable. I can't do that. Tim had a card where he rolls a die and it could buff his attack. One of these exhaustion cards said if he rolls a certain face in that die, we insta-lose the game. Tim's really good card is now useless because we're not going to risk losing the game on a die roll. I mean, we did once, I think, but we're not going to.
We made it. Oh, shoot.
But I really like that interaction. And so having more players in the game means more of those are constantly going to be proccing. And I think that's exciting. But that's a different conversation.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. No, this game just does a lot of things right and not very much wrong for me. I mean,
and I didn't mention it. You're right, though. The art here and everything is fantastic.
Dude,
it's
loved
ridiculous.
It.
Some of it reminds me of like this card and everything. Kind of reminds me of the look they went for with like Hades from Hercules.
Oh, right. Yeah, I can see that.
It kind of reminds me of that. But overall, I'm not saying it is that though. It's very good looking.
Yeah, I like it, and I thought Hercules was fine. But yeah, I enjoy the art. There's fun flavor text on there if you want. The other thing I want to point out that I do think is really interesting is that like not all the combat cards are red, right? And not all the trap cards are blue and all the obstacle cards are green.
That actually threw me off for a second when we were first learning. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, it's easy to learn from then on because it's just color, icon, and type, right? And it's easy to catch on to. But when I was first learning it, I wasn't expecting that. It wasn't the most intuitive thing at first.
Right. But it's kind of fun, though, to see that. Now, sometimes you are hosed because maybe you don't have great cards in your hand. They're going to be really good against the challenges that are up. But you can always take an exhaustion and discard your hand and draw a new one. So, I don't know that I want to do that. But yeah, I love the emotions that this game invokes, right? Like, you know, we talk about enjoying difficult co-ops, but there were literal moments where we're like, okay, we're just gonna roll the dice and like see what happens, you know. And I just like that games that can make you feel things.
Yeah,
you know.
I'll also say in the realm of feeling things, if you're like me and this happens to you, just don't worry. Like halfway through the game, I was sitting there and I was just like,
yeah.
Nat one. I was sitting there and I was just like, this might be too easy. Like, I don't know, like, and I was just like, I just don't know. Like, and I wanted to like kind of read some of the cards and make sure we were doing them right. And I was doing all this stuff. And it never was though. Cause like throughout the whole game, we would get down to like 4 health and we'd heal up and we'd go back down, or like we'd be exhausted and be 1 card away from losing. We'd heal. Like we were always on the edge of losing, but it didn't feel like it. It kind of felt like, okay, this is okay. And then you get like 80% the way through the game. And especially when you get to the end, and yeah, it's really hard and it's really fulfilling. So I'm just saying, if you're getting that feeling of like, oh, I thought this would be harder, trust me, it is. You're just not feeling it yet.
It's gonna punch you in the face. Just be ready. Just be ready. And the achievements are fun. I just joke about them being in the middle of the book.
Yeah, no, like, there was a part
weird.
when Tim went into the rulebook to check a term, I think, that we saw on a card, and he got to that page and he went, there's more rules than this. Why does it stop here? And then he flipped the page and he went, oh.
Yeah, because literally in the middle of the book, it's like achievements.
Yeah,
and then
it looks like the last
which
page.
I would assume would be the last page of the book. But they're numbered properly, so I did check that as well, right? So that was intentional. That's my biggest problem with the game. Who cares? But yeah, there are like fun achievements. So even the first one is not even just winning the game. It's just... You don't have to win. Just like we actually got one of the achievements, complete a bound prisoner with no excess progress on it.
Oh, yeah.
Scorn's prisoners lose the game due to having a set of 3 score. Oh, we got that one too. The 3 exhausted.
We're really good at this when we lose.
Yeah. We did not lose the game when the headsman enters the play. That's the one that like took 6 of our health.
Right.
Or right away, or 4 of our, whatever it was. He took a big old chunk out of our health. And that sucked. So anyways, these achievements are really fun. Little things you can do. You can cross them off in your book when you've done it if you want. I wouldn't damage my book, but I would be like, well, I know we've done that one. Sure. And I know we've done that one. But we should probably rate this game. But first, Dan, how do we do that here?
Hey, guys. Here at the Board Game Rundown, we rate games from 0 to 10, and then we average them all together at the end so that Board Game Rundown just has one score. This gives us a score for the channel, but also lets each player individually kind of rate their experience with the game.
Are 0.5s allowed?
I'll allow it.
Okay, good deal. Good deal. Dan.
Yeah.
What do you rate Scorn Stockade?
This is a good game. I think my rating would go up with more players. I'm just a social gamer. I want as many people as possible unless it makes the game take 6 hours. So yeah, I think playing this with at least 3, maybe 4, I think will up my score. For now though, I'm already on an 8. I thought this was a really good little, maybe 30-minute 2-player game.
Yeah, super easy to teach. I'm an 8.5. I really enjoy this. I think it does everything I want it to do. I really also kind of like Dan, look forward to playing it with more players and seeing what that does, and also just that mixing and matching of the characters and the variety of combinations there. So that puts us at a 8.3.
Your math is really good. It's almost like you looked off.
It's almost like I looked up and then remembered how to round that number up there. But yeah, this is really fun. I really glad that we had the opportunity to check this out. I really want to see that last one, the Callus's Lab.
Yeah.
I want all of the Kinfire Delve ones. I haven't played any of the other Kinfire, I haven't played Kinfire Chronicles.
Right.
Yeah. I haven't done the other ones, but guess what? I really want to, because there's the Kinfire Council. This universe is pretty cool. And if the art is consistent, like that, and if it keeps giving you those good vibes, give me more. But yeah, love this. We've really liked it. It's kind of funny because the first one I reviewed solo, and now this one we've reviewed now with 2 players.
So the next one is a 3-player game. Okay, and then we have the trilogy.
Yeah, and then that's it.
Okay. I was thinking we could call it the Cornado trilogy, something like the Cornet, I don't know, something like that. I don't know, just making that word up on the spot.
Yeah, that's never been done before. Correct. No trilogy related to ice cream flavors.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, drumstick trilogy.
Yeah. All right, guys. This has been the Board Game Rundown, and I've been Tim.
Dan.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
And you can say the title's only 3 words.